Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco. Just Shout Out Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. As you guys saw, I just reviewed Scream, quote unquote, 2022 yesterday. Unfortunately, had the the displeasure, of watching that piece of shit movie, quote, requel, unquote, what they call it now, as an excuse for their ripping off the other ones. Like, apparently, that's going to be a new term now. It really shouldn't be a new term at all. Isn't that kind of pathetic? I mean, we've had plenty of these bad movies where they rip off the other ones, or they do a remake and then the remake is just a shot for shot, like that Psycho 1998. But at least they never pretended like it was cool. Like, this movie pretended like it was cool to rip off the other ones and then to shit all over the other ones, even though all the other sequels are better. And so that's what I wanted to do today. I am going to rank the Scream movies. I will also do the Home Alone series, since we did that around Christmas time, and I'll do that when I have a little spot where I need to put in a new video and I don't have a daily topic planned. So, anyways, I am a huge fan of the Scream series, or at least I was. In elementary school, it was my favorite series of all time. It was Scream, and then Psycho, and then Halloween. No, wait, no, and then Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. Like, all those four, my top four ones. But Scream was always my favorite. And then the fourth one came out, and that one kind of ended my liking the Scream series. Like, after that, I never watched a Scream movie again, because when I see a bad movie in a series, if it's bad enough, it'll totally ruin my enjoyment of the other films in the series. That's why I haven't reviewed or watched anything Star Wars, is because that piece of shit Force Awakens ruined my liking the series. And it's funny because I was totally ready for a new Scream movie. I thought, even though this is by a shitty studio, they make terrible movies, even though that's what it is, I'm still open to liking it, because obviously I want to like what I'm watching. I don't want to hate everything that I'm watching, because that would suck. That would be like totally miserable, unless I just turned it around and made it all a joke or something, pretended like I did like it, which I'm not gonna do. So, and as I've been saying, the fifth one is in last place. So number 5 is Scream 5, for all the reasons I've already talked about. This movie is unoriginal, it's unnecessary. They totally disgrace and disrespect Dewey, and then they uh, and then they kill him. And this will be a spoiler video, so watch out. But they kill him off, and it's just a huge blow to the series, because they've already killed off Randy, the only other male main character. And so it just feels like they're trying to copy on Halloween as well, where they have the 3 main women as the main characters. And it's really lazy and unoriginal. And then they even have this female Randy, and she's so annoying. She's probably the most obnoxious character of the whole past 2 years in film. She's a complete annoyance, and they try to make her like this snarky, smart-ass character like Randy was, but it doesn't work, because she's not a character and she doesn't have any likability. And then, speaking of not having any likability, nobody in this movie is really likable except for Dewey, who gets killed off. Everyone in this movie is bland and boring. Sydney has become boring, generic, cardboard cutout version of herself. Gail has become boring, bland, cardboard cutout version of herself. And then the new girl and her sister. You know, she's just as bland as Allison in the Halloween movies. I don't understand why they're making these movies now where you have a main character and you're just expected to like them because they're the main character. And then they get all this plot armor, and of course, she'll probably survive. They'll make 2 or 3 more, and she'll survive all those too, along with Sydney and Gale. You know, it's just really bad, and this is definitely the worst one of the series. It's the only one I would never watch again. And I used to think I would never watch the 4th one again, but now I'd kind of like to watch it again to see if I still hate it as much after seeing this pile of shit. And on top of that, it was just bad. It was just boring and bad. It was so fast-paced that they never really had any development on anything except for having this main girl seeing the ghost of Billy. And that was the best part of the movie, even though it was totally done for nostalgia. And then the killers were trash. Okay, the girl was fine. But the guy, the boyfriend, it was just totally another, copying off of the first one, like the whole movie was trying to do, and it really did not work. So anyways, that is my number 5, Scream 5. And speaking of part 4, my number 4 is Scream 4. This movie I was so excited for. I was so excited. I did not see it in theaters because my parents wouldn't take me to see it, and so I just pirated it when I was a teenager, and I watched it, and it was really, really bad, and it was so disappointing. And the movie just felt like it had to have all these trendy actors who, I don't really care about them. You got Kristen Bell, Hayden Panettiere, Emma Roberts. Like, who cares? Like, I just want to see a good story. And the 4th one's story, I can't even, remember. It's just there's another killer and people get stabbed and stuff. That's literally the 4th movie. I did like the twist that they were a part of the filmmaking club in the high school. I thought that was kind of cool from what I remember, but it was so bad when I first watched it that I had to turn it off halfway through. And I did the same thing with the new Scream. Right after Dewey gets killed, I turned the movie off, and I was like, oh, can't believe I have to put myself through this complete trash. But at least with the 4th one, I think it was more enjoyable, and at least it doesn't disrespect the characters like this one did, and it has more of them in it. It has more Dewey, it has more Sydney. The new one hardly has them at all in the movie. My number 3 is Scream 3. Scream 3 was actually my favorite one as a kid. I would always say I loved the 3rd one the most, and then I loved the 1st one, and then I loved the 2nd one the least because of what they did to Randy. Randy. And it's so funny because in the 3rd one, I noticed it even as a kid that it was a mistake because they just had to have a videotape of him. They were so desperate. They were like, these guys can't carry a Scream movie. We got to have Randy on a videotape. And I just thought, that's really pathetic. Really, really bad. Not only that, but the 3rd one makes things too much into a joke in the same way that the Nightmare on Elm Street series turned into too much of a joke. So did the Scream series. And it all started with part 3. Part 3 was a big joke. It's all about making Scream in Hollywood, which to me reminded me of the Psycho 2 book, But the Psycho 2 book was a lot better than this, and it took things a lot more seriously. In fact, there were some pretty creepy moments in the Psycho 2 book, but in this Scream 3, everything was played off for laughs. I couldn't take anything seriously. Uh, they have the whole stupid story about how Sydney is living alone and she sees her mom's ghost. Like, oh, God. Oh. I did kind of like the idea of the killer. His motivations made the most sense out of 3, 4, and 5. But still, the movie was pretty bad. It's still good in like a good bad way though. Number 2 is Scream 1. Now I know everyone always has Scream 1 at number 1, but I'll tell you why I don't. Simply because I like the second one more as a movie. I don't like the fact that they killed Randy in the second one, but I do love the movie more as a whole. I would say that the only thing that the first one has over the second one is that the first one has better villains, and Billy and Stu. They are much better villains than the mom and Mickey. And I didn't even know that Mickey was Timothy Olyphant. I mean, that really weirded me out when I found that out this year. I was like, oh, what the fuck? I never knew that was him. But the first one, it's a classic. It's really fun. It's dark. It's comedic at some points. It's a classic. It is a straight up classic, but it's a little cold. And what I mean by cold is that it kind of lacks emotion at some points in terms of. In the second one, you like the characters a lot more. You know them a lot more. In the first one, the news reporter woman, she is straight trash for most of the movie, but in the second one, she's a lot more likable. And Sydney is interesting. She's interesting in the first one, but God, it's really tough because of what they do with her, the decisions that she makes, the way that they make her friend zone Randy, even after all the first movie, really doesn't look good in hindsight. But even so, she was a good character in the first one and the third one. And then Dewey, you didn't really know him that much either. Whereas in the second one, he's more of a main character. And so I think the second one is number 1 because the second one, it also has a different setting. I mean, the third one takes place in Hollywood, but you can't really take it seriously. The second one's college campus setting is really a highlight of the series. To have such a unique setting, it had all these cool locations they went to. Even at that one point where they get in that car crash and then Ghostface is killing people in the middle of the highway or wherever that was, I can't remember, in the middle of the street. It was such a fast-paced, action-packed movie, and it started off with, I think, the best opening of the series, where you have Jada Smith, the bitch, the whore in real life, but not in this movie. You have her in a theater with this guy, her boyfriend, I guess, and they both get killed, and he gets killed in the stall, and then obviously he comes back, the killer comes back and then kills her in the middle of the theater. I thought that was the best opening of the whole series. It was so cool, and it was the coolest thing ever. When I first saw that, I was like, I know that this movie is going to be great after seeing that opening, because it's such a cool idea, and it's actually kind of realistic. I could imagine that happening. And then the rest of the movie, there are some great new characters, even though they really shot themselves in the foot by killing off Randy and having Sydney friendzone him. It really looked bad when they did that, and I really hated that. It was probably it is the worst thing about the whole series, even worse than killing off Dewey in the fifth one. Because maybe if Dewey was in the whole movie in the fifth one and he wasn't disgraced and disrespected, maybe I would have been more accepting to them killing him off at the end or something. But yeah, the second one is just there's so many great kills. Excuse me, sorry. There's so many great kills, and it's really fast paced. It's the most fast paced one of the series, and it's finally the one where Dewey and Gale, where they hook up properly, and they have a really good romance in the movie, and they have a really good dynamic with each other. And I love the ending where Cotton comes back and he becomes a main character, obviously only to be killed off in the third one. Another mistake in the series, but still, and see that there's another reason why I did not like part three, was because they introduced him back into the fold in the ending of part two, immediately kill him off in part three. Really stupid, really dumb. Anyways, still, I love the second one. It's so much more fun than the first one, but still, the first two are the best. They are total horror classics. Even though the studios took the wrong messages from them, they took them to say, we need to change horror. We need to make everything teen-oriented. We need to make everything, we need to change everything because these Scream movies are exposing how the horror movies have, they're all bad. And nobody ever really liked Friday the 13th. They just laugh at it. We need to change that by making movies like Halloween 2018. So anyways, that's what I think of the Scream series. It has turned into a giant train wreck. Mostly, I think, because of all the deaths. All of the characters dying off and in these weird places where they shouldn't have died off. Probably that's the biggest downfall of the series. And this new one continues that trend and, crashing this series into a giant train wreck. So please like this video, comment, and tell me your rankings of the series because, I have seen people who have put the fifth one right behind the first one. Like, oh my God. It's just so predictable nowadays. And not to insult anyone who has that opinion. There's that bird that likes to interrupt my reviews again. But it's just so predictable nowadays. Whenever Blumhouse makes a new film, they make a new quote-unquote requel. Whenever they do that, people always will rank every horror series the same. It'll be the first one, and then the new Blumhouse one, and then the next Blumhouse one, and that'll be at number 2 over the first one. It's so predictable, and it really comes off as fake and disingenuous. Like, you can't really tell me honestly that you would prefer a Scream movie, and this is another thing too. Who in the hell would choose to watch a Scream movie that is not made by Wes Craven over another Scream movie made by Wes Craven? Who the hell would want to do that? Like, that is just crazy to me. I would never want to watch this new Scream again. I would watch the next one just to review it, but for literally no other reason. Because what's the point if Wes Craven isn't making them? What's the point? And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more videos of me talking about the Scream series, because it used to be my favorite horror series, and so I would love to talk about it more. And so yeah, goodbye everybody, see you soon.